Every 10 years after the census, the U.S. redraws its political maps, a process called redistricting. Imagine dividing a pizza so everyone gets an equal slice. In politics, these slices are congressional districts, each with roughly the same population. This ensures every vote counts equally. One person, one vote. But who draws the lines matters. State lawmakers can manipulate districts to favor one party, a tactic called gerrymandering. Gerrymandering can skew election results, making some votes count more than others and reducing competition. The way districts are drawn can unite or split communities, amplifying or diluting their voices in Congress. These maps set the political landscape for a decade, influencing everything from national policy to local funding. Because so much is at stake, redistricting often sparks fierce political battles and lawsuits. Courts, including the Supreme Court, are frequently called to decide if maps are fair or discriminatory. The lines on these maps shape who has power and whose voices are heard in American democracy. At the heart of redistricting fights is the Voting Rights Act of 1965, or VRA, a landmark law protecting against racial discrimination in voting. Section 2 of the VRA bans any voting practice that denies or limits the right to vote based on race. In redistricting, this means states can't draw maps that dilute minority voting power, like splitting a large minority community across districts so they can't elect their preferred candidate. Courts sometimes require majority minority districts to ensure fair representation, but using race in map drawing is controversial. The challenge balancing the VRA's goal of remedying discrimination with the Constitution's promise of equal protection, which says government actions shouldn't be based mainly on race. This tension is at the core of today's biggest legal battles over voting rights. The Supreme Court case Louisiana versus Calais spotlights this national debate. After the 2020 census, Louisiana's legislature drew only one majority black district out of 6, despite black residents making up a third of the state. Civil rights groups sued, arguing the map diluted black voting power and violated the Voting Rights Act. Courts agreed, ordering a new map with 2 majority black districts. But then, some non-black voters sued, claiming the new map was an unconstitutional racial gerrymander. In a twist, Louisiana's own leaders joined the challenge, arguing that using race to draw districts is itself discriminatory. Now, the Supreme Court faces 2 arguments. One side says the new map is needed for fair representation. The other says it's unconstitutional racial sorting. The outcome could either uphold protections for minority voters or weaken the Voting Rights Act's power. The stakes, whether race can be considered in redistricting, and how far states must go to ensure fair representation. The decision could reshape election maps nationwide. Inside the Supreme Court, justices are deeply divided. Conservative justices question whether Section 2 of the VRA should still apply as strongly as it has, hinting at limiting the use of race in redistricting. They argue the Constitution should be colorblind, and any race-based government action is suspect. Liberal justices counter that the VRA's purpose is to address racial discrimination in voting, a compelling government interest. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson argues that fixing discrimination is not itself discrimination. The debate: should the law focus on remedying past injustice or move toward a race-blind approach? The court isn't just deciding Louisiana's map, they're reconsidering how voting rights are protected in America. Their ruling could redefine the balance between fair representation and constitutional equality. The Supreme Court's decision will shape elections far beyond Louisiana. If the map with 2 majority black districts stands, it could lead to more such districts nationwide, shifting political power and reinforcing the VRA. If the court strikes it down, it could make it much harder for minority groups to challenge discriminatory maps, and states may stop drawing districts to empower minority voters. This could put several House seats at risk and move the country toward a race-blind approach to redistricting. Supporters say this fulfills equal protection. Critics warn it ignores ongoing discrimination and could reverse decades of civil rights progress. The ruling will set a precedent for how fairness and representation are defined in U.S. democracy. A broad decision could reshape the nation's political landscape for years. Ultimately, the court will decide: what does a fair vote mean in America today?